Hi, this is John from Sharp Mountain Games, and today we're going to talk about how to be more independent in our RPG writing and especially publishing. But even if you don't write for publication, I hope you'll still stick around because I hope you'll get something out of this video. We all make RPG purchases, we all play or run RPGs, so I think thinking about being independent is important. So let's talk about it after the intro. So if we're talking about independence, let's talk about what we mean. What I mean is writing, publishing, and even running and playing RPG material that's not tightly bound to any large commercial system. Now, why do I think this is something to think about? Why break free? If I'm writing something, tying my product to the current edition of, say, D&D, guarantee more money for me? Maybe, maybe not. But it also could be an unhealthy cycle. First point, I think unless you're a big name person, you're not going to be making life-changing money writing RPG material and selling it. It's something I think should be done out of a labor of love, and if you make a little extra, then that's great. But I think we also have to be realistic on things. Now, if you tightly link your system to a commercial system, sometimes the licenses change. For example, we saw that in 2023, early 2023, with the OGL problems, where the license was going to be pulled. And also a company could go out of business. Another issue with tying it to a certain game and a specific edition is that editions change. So what you write today may not be compatible tomorrow. As D&D moves online, companies are going to have to be making these changes, and we know that when it moves online, it's going to be essentially a 6th edition, so things you write may not be compatible with the current edition. And there's this cycle that they have to put out new product. A company has to keep making money, and that's just the way it is. So they want to keep making new and more powerful characters. It's kind of like Warhammer. They have to sell a new army every so often, and then all of a sudden your old army may be obsolete or weaker, and that's a pretty expensive cycle. So just something to think about. Also, I think tying ourselves to just one game and one genre can be creatively stifling. So one game system should not dominate the market. Now, I'm not knocking anyone who's playing Dungeons & Dragons or playing the current edition, 5th edition. Not at all. I'm not saying that there's bad, wrong fun. If you and your group are having a great time, absolutely wonderful. However, should one edition and one game be the end-all and be-all for an entire hobby? Or should the hobby be a little broader maybe, or could it be a little broader than it is right now? For example, I enjoy Star Trek, but I don't think it would be healthy to only watch Star Trek TV shows, to only read Star Trek books and comics. I think it's important to read Isaac Asimov and Ursula Le Guin and all these other writers, science fiction and fantasy writers, to broaden our horizons. And another thing about linking it to one game is brand fatigue. You know, they're saying that there's a DM shortage now for the current edition of Dungeons & Dragons. I think some of that is because of the complexity of the game, but I also think there's something to be said for, maybe people are just getting some brand fatigue and want to try something different. For the rest of the video, we're going to talk about 3 levels of freedom. Are these the only levels or the only approach? I'm sure they're not, but they're the 3 that I thought of, and I think they give us some place to start, food for thought. So the first level of freedom is to write a system-neutral adventure. Write it in any genre you like. If you like fantasy, go right ahead. Science fiction. And you can even gear it towards a certain level. You could say this is a low-level adventure, or this is a mid or a high-level adventure. And it really lets you reach a wide audience. Now, one reasonable objection is, oh yeah, but now the game master has to provide all the stats for all the adversaries. That's true. However, a good game master can do that pretty quickly. I think most game masters can whip up a 1st-level goblin or a 3rd-level wizard. Here, you want a 3rd-level wizard? 12 hit points, 3 1st-level spells, armor class 11 or 12, and that's probably good enough for an adversary. I think you can do that pretty much off the cuff, most people. And also, even if you have to do a little work, well, you still have to do work reading a published adventure and maybe making some notes or noting down some statistics. Recently, I converted a 35-year-old FOSSA Star Trek module to Starships and Spacemen, and I ran it. And I would really say in terms of writing down the stats for the adversaries, or maybe figuring out some difficulty numbers or challenge numbers for certain non-combat things or challenges, under a half an hour. It really didn't take all that long. And in the process, I knew the adventure very, very well. I knew exactly what people were going to be facing. So I don't think that's this huge hurdle, at least not for me. Now, the second level of freedom is to write a broad spectrum adventure. So it's not totally system neutral. You are saying, okay, this is geared for OSR systems, or this is compatible with modern editions, maybe for Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder. So that way you can give back to, whatever your favorite segment of the hobby is. And you're hitting a wide range of audience, and you kind of keep it general, but you can include stats. So that gives the game master or the dungeon master something to work on. One thing I would say is this lets you maintain copyright as long as you're not directly quoting from their published material or even using an SRD. You want to be careful of that so you're not violating any copyright, if you want to be independent. Now, what you want to do with Creative Commons stuff, I guess that's up to you. You'd have to read those licenses and think about it. But you might even want to avoid that if you're really striving for some independence, because some of those licenses require parts of what you write to then be put into the Creative Commons, and you may or may not, or the public domain, and you may or may not want to do that. Now, the third level of freedom is one that I want to try with my next publication, and I'm working on it little by little, and that's what I call an all-in-one book, where you get the rules, pre-gens, and adventure right in the book. So you're getting everything you need. Now, where did I get this idea? There's a game system, Morkborg or Mjorkborg, which I've never run, but I saw that they have most of their rules pretty much on one page, and there's one-page rule systems out there. So what I did, I wasn't able to get it to one page, like a one-page rule system, was I was able to get it to 2 pages, kind of like a Dungeon Master screen here, a DM screen. So I have general rules for doing stuff and combat and healing and a little bit on Starship Combat. And these are pretty light, but it's small enough that I easily could include this in any kind of adventure that I want to publish without, bumping up the page count. Because you don't want to artificially inflate the page count and be charging people, for the same rules and 30 pages of rules and all that. I think that's too much. You might say, well, how am I going to write a rule system? Don't reinvent the wheel. The game mechanics and dice mechanics are not copyrighted, as I understand it. So if you like D20 plus a bonus, if you like percentile, or I personally really like D20 roll under, which is, a version of percentile, you can easily use that. And you should not be thinking, oh, well, I need to write levels 1 to 20 and a total progression and level grinding system. Don't do that. What you want to do is give them enough information for that level of play to run the adventure. And you can even put that on your pre-gen character sheet. If they have spells, just make a little note of what the spells do, or any special abilities. And don't feel like you have to tie yourself. Oh, I have to use these 6 attributes, and I have to use these 19 or 20 skills. You don't need to. Think about your genre. What are the 6 or 10 things that are important in that genre? What's important for Star Wars characters to do? They don't spend a lot of time doing like scientific analysis, but that would be important for Star Trek. So you just look and say, well, what are the pieces that I need? In a game like Supernatural, like a Supernatural TV show, you may want to include some like lore and monster lore and demon lore and things like that. So you'd include that. Again, you wouldn't use that in a Star Wars or Star Trek adventure. Find the few things that are important for those characters, find a way to rank them and give your players some bonuses or good ability scores, and you're ready to go. It's streamlined. Now, the caveat here and the admission is I like very rules-light systems. Not no rules, but I do like rules-light systems. If you're someone who likes something totally crunchy, you may be better off with a published system, and this may not be the route for you to go. So just keep that in mind, that it's probably too much to write your own full crunchy system. If you want to do that, go right ahead. And people might say, well, what about rules light and there's not enough there? How much of the 5e character sheet do you really use in any given session? So let's wrap up here. RPGs are about your creativity and the creativity of the players. So I think in some ways breaking the chain frees us up to think in different ways. For example, there have been 6 attributes since 1974. Well, do they have to be those 6 attributes? For example, in a fantasy game, I've often wondered, well, why isn't stealth a core attribute? Or survival for rangers? Those seems like things that would be pretty important for medieval adventurers. So if you're not tying yourself directly to a skill system or a current edition, you can just, add those in and no problem. And I think writing is more enjoyable if you're not too tightly yoked to somebody else's system. You don't have to worry specifically about every little bit of minutia and trying to get rules balanced and things like that. You're making it up as you go along. And isn't that really what role-playing games are all about, where we're making it up as we go along? Yeah, you need a rule system, but it doesn't have to be so tightly bound that it chains us down. So if you like this video, the thing, like, subscribe, share it with anybody if you'd like. But also down below in the comments, please tell me any levels of freedom I missed or any reasons to consider being free that I missed, or just any of your other thoughts. I'd love to hear them. So thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. So if you'd like to check out or purchase any of our products, we have 3 books that are in print: The Star Mermaid, The Dwarven Pickup Truck, and The Sky Tree. And the best place to get the print versions is through Amazon or Lulu. And also over on drive-thru, you can get the digital versions, or we have a number of other adventures and character classes and even some stock art available on drive-thru. And then on the Roll20 Marketplace, we have some map packs and also character cards for use. So wherever you like to shop, odds are we're there. And we hope that you'll subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you next time.